Right, hello. It's another office chat. Welcome. So last time, I've been looking at my calendar now. So last time I spoke, we did a All England's Junior recap, British Masters recap, I think. And since then, I've had Ben Foe join the team, or Ben Fu. I think it's Ben Fu. He joined the team, programming only. We also had the Super Training Summer Showdown happen. So that was 6 athletes competing over 2 days. It was 2 on Saturday and 4 on the Sunday. I was handling half of a whole flight, which was quite fun. It doesn't sound fun, but it was. So I'm going to start. So I'm going to start on Saturday. So Saturday morning was Jasmine competed. She was going for just progressing her total, moving forward. I also wanted to push this one a bit more for her because this was her third competition, I believe. Yep, it was the third competition, so I wanted to push the boundaries a bit more, not play as safe, allow her to make mistakes and see how she deals with it. And I'd say mission accomplished. So we went, what do we do? We missed a bench and a deadlift, so that's 7 for 9, which, considering we were pushing the boat out a bit, that's still a good result at the end of the day. I believe we hit a 2.5 kilo total PB, so we matched our best bench. We got a squat PB. Maybe we pushed it more than 2.5 our total. This is something I don't remember because this happened 2 weeks ago, and I've done a lot of stuff since then. But it was still a success. 7 for 9. Total PB, squat PB, matched our bench. We reached for 90 kilo bench, jumping 5 kilos, just fell a bit short, and that's fine. That was the whole point of the day. I think we either matched or we may have come a little bit short of our deadlift PB. Again, because our second attempt I think was just under, and then we pushed for more on the third. She did stand up with it, she did lock out, but there was just a little bit of the knees bending after she locked out to kind of pull it up a bit more. She struggles with the lockout, so that was the only reason we failed that. It wasn't really on strength, she stood up, but the rules are the rules. I'm not going to be complaining about the refereeing standards there. It was all fair. And then I had Alison in the prime time. So the way the Super Training Summer Comp works is on the Saturday there are 2 flights, one in the morning, one in the afternoon, and then a third flight in the evening, which is prime time. So that's kind of the top, I think it was 12 males and females on GL points get put into a session in the afternoon. So I had Alison as the female. She did really well. We went 8 for 9, I believe. We got a new squat PB. I played it a bit cautious on the squat at the time because I know we were hunting for the qualifying total for British Open Nats, which isn't so much a qualifying total, it's kind of a qualifying standard. So if you get the total, it doesn't mean you have qualified, it means you're now able to apply, and then you'll get selected. I think it's top 16 get selected of who apply on total. So yeah, we did achieve that goal, but for the squats, her second didn't move as well as I would want it to take the planned third. So I pulled it back. I think we did 162.5 or 160 as our third, which I'm pretty sure is a 5 kilo PB, 5 to 7 kilo PB. I wanted to go for 165, but based on, I think we did 162 because I think we did 157 for our second. So based on that, and then she came back from that and was like, her knee came in on her way down, so that kind of stopped her sitting as low as she would normally, and it made it more difficult to stand up. I was like, cool, well, if that happens again, I want to make sure we take a safe, sensible jump here. So yeah, it was 160, 162. She absolutely smoked it. After I saw it, I was like, well, definitely could have done 165, but if I'd have loaded that and we'd have missed, that was kilos that we needed to then find somewhere else. Her bench press, I believe we did 77, 77.5 for her third, which I think is a 5 kilo total PB. No, 5 kilo bench PB, obviously. This is also mine and her second comp together. So the way she works is she doesn't want to know what's on the bar. She just wants to kind of like lock in, focus, and lift. It's like, fine. She can know her openers, but it kind of messes with her head with the rest of the attempts. So I made sure to just kind of watch, write down, go in. And after she just puts everything into her thirds, and I think she needs to put a little bit more into her seconds to give both of us the confidence, but mainly me, to reach for those thirds that she can hit. Because again, she did the bench 77, probably could have done 80. I never would have planned to have given her 80 on her third, but that just means kind of ideally her next comp is British Open Nats. So it's like, right, well, that's probably where we're going to push, just because it's her first Open Nats, but equally I don't know if she's going to be fighting for a podium space, so pushing is just going to be a little bit more fun for everyone. And the only risk to reward there is if we get all of the lifts, amazing, she's probably going to get top 5. If we just play it safe and boring, she'll be somewhere like between 8th and 5th. Either way, if we go and push and miss some, she'll still end up 8th to 5th. So I think the idea of pushing a little bit is going to be exciting, but no one watches these, so no one will know. And then deadlifts, that was the only surprising one for both of us. So she's usually that's usually her strongest lift. She's usually absolutely sound. I was going to really piss her off and load 197 for her third, that was my plan. And she wants to pull 200, which is definitely possible. But I was going to load 197 to cap out a really nice total to help her qualify and actually get the selection for Open Nats. But she missed her second. I'm not it kind of fell out of her hand at the top, and I was really confused because that's never been a problem for her. And she was really confused, and she started blaming the bar and the fact it had talc on it. But I did get the guy to clean the bar before her attempt, so that's not the case. Anyway, we retook it for our third because we needed it to get a push more over the qualifying standard for Open Nats. So she ended with 427.5. That was her total overall. So yeah, that's how that played out. We would have wanted to finish more on the deadlift, but it is what it is. And then also in the prime time for super training, there is a podium for based on GL. So in the women, she came 4th on GL. I don't know, I haven't worked it out, if she would have come 3rd if we'd had the perfect day. Not sure. But either way, 4th is pretty savage, and she came 3rd in the weight class as well. So there was only 2 people in her weight class and someone from another weight class that beat her on kind of GL and total, which is cool. Day 2 comes around, Sunday, so Sunday morning, and I had 3 athletes doing full power, and then I had 1 athlete doing bench only. So they put it all in one flight. The people that do bench only will just show off a bench and then bugger off. But I had Leroy, Matt, Ewan, and then Tom was doing bench only. That was really fun because I could have the rack to myself. I could time everything how I wanted it to go. Yeah, sure, I was loading bars really quick, changing rack heights really quick, but it's, if you're just doing it and the warm-up room was next to the platform, so I didn't have to run anywhere or do anything, is absolutely fine. So that all ran really smooth. I also knew all their weights, all their warm-ups, all their attempts, so I could also order them in terms of right, it's got to be you, and you, in this order. I'll change the plates, I'll do the rack heights, right, cool, right, get on, go, get ready, okay, you're next. And I just let them know, because they're also adults, they're not incapable, they're not imbeciles. They could understand I was running the ship on my own to be ready after the guy before them goes. So they also handled themselves really well. I was very happy with how that all turned out. And then when it came to attempts, I was just kind of stood there by the desk, writing attempts down, juggling slips, like, yep, this, right, cool, watch that, sound this. I do feel a little bit bad in terms of I couldn't necessarily celebrate too much with each of the lifters. Whoever lifted last in squats or bench or deadlifts would have gotten the most celebration at the time for how they've done, just because with the other guys, it was either one or straight. It was either the next person was going straight away, or there was an attempt in between. There wasn't a lot of time to be like, oh yeah, amazing, well done, as I try and write down their next attempt, hand it in, and then get the next person like psychologically ready to go and lift. So, but also they were adults and men and didn't care as much that wasn't provided to them. Not to say that all women care, I'm just saying, like, generally guys aren't going to get upset if you don't give them a pat on the back and say well done after they've done something. And this is just personal experience. I've had majority female get pissed off with me if I've not celebrated their wins enough, which I've previously taken on as feedback as a coach and made more of an effort to do so. So just, no one watches this, so no one's going to cancel me for it, don't care. Yeah, and then in terms of performances, we had Leroy, his second ever comp, our first one together, and he didn't do necessarily as well as we expected, but equally we were just gonna like push everything for a PB, at least 2.5 or 5 kilos. Again, the deadlift was the most unexpected one in terms of his second attempt. It looked like he missed it on strength, but he came off and was just like, that wasn't heavy, I don't know what happened. I'm like, well, guess what, we're going to try that again. So he finished on a 220 deadlift. We were going to try and go for like 232, I think. Bench press, he's had quite a long time of shoulder, pec, tricep pain. He's only in the last few months gone to a physio about it, because I'm a strength coach, not a physiotherapist. I'm not going to pretend to be. It's a protected title, so if, like, I can make programming adjustments, and if the pain doesn't get any better or we can't progress past it, then, you know, we're going to go over to a specialist who is designed to be able to deal with this. So that's what he went and did, and he got some rehab work, and it's been slowly getting better. So really, for the first few months of us training together, he couldn't really bench over 100 due to pain. The previous max, I think, was something like 140 or 150. So we were quite a way off that. We did bench 120 on the day, and he said it felt all right, but I could just see the one side was lagging a bit. He feels that there's now the fact that he's not been able to push to high intensities for a long time. The fact of just, it is a bit of a lack of strength in the one side at the moment. So that's something we're going to be working on. And his squats are moving really well in training. We went for, I think, 252. His best was 250 previously, and yeah, just a little bit too much on the day. Unfortunately, he's like built for squats, so his squat was higher than his deadlift, and it just wasn't there on the day, which is, again, a shame, but there was nothing to win or lose during the day, so that's why we were just like, yeah, let's just push for PBs. Ewan is a Masters athlete. He hit the qualifying total for next year's Masters Nationals, and that is the case of, you hit this total, you can enter the Masters Nationals. So M1 under 105, which he did the competition last year. He didn't do it this year, and then he may or may not do it next year, but he has qualified, so he can if he wants to. He may do All England Masters instead, which is, again, pretty cool. Yeah, so he had a good day. Again, I think his best squat was 250. We pushed for 252. Wasn't quite there, which is a bit of a shame. But the rest of the day went perfect. So we did a 180 bench, which is something that he's wanted for years. He said he's not really hit a bench PB in years, or it could have been deadlift PB he's not hit in years. Either way, that's kind of, yeah, he said, like, that's been his goal. That's like the dream goal as well, like 4 blue plates, 180, just under 400 pounds. Like, it is a milestone, and he got it. He earned it as well. So I think he came back from 175, which was his second, and I'm like, where do you want to go? We can go 2.5, play it safe, or we can go at 5. And he's like, yeah, let's go at 5. And I was like, have you got this? Are you gonna finish the rep? And he's like, yeah. Oh, yep. I mean, like, that's the thing. I'm gonna trust the athlete to know how much they have in them. I'll obviously watch. I'm gonna be realistic. I'm gonna think, do they have 5 more? Depends if they've got that dog in them. It's mine and his first comp together, so I don't have the experience of seeing him at competitions. I've seen his training, but not him at competitions. So he said, yeah, I'm going to trust that, follow it, write it down, in we go. Then we come into deadlift. His previous best deadlift was 280, I think, but that was I think that's the one that was 2 or 3 years ago, where he hasn't hit a PB since. We did 285, and it looked fairly comfortable, to be honest. I didn't really have any doubts on that one. I was pretty confident when I put that attempt slip in. I was like, yeah, he's got this. And he did. He executed really well. We were both very happy with that. So going forward, whatever he chooses to do, I think we've set ourselves a nice base to build from. Just going to make some tweaks to his squat. I think it could have been there was too much volume, so it wasn't quite recovered enough. We shall see. Might play with doing more frequent squats but less in each session. That might be an idea or something I go and try for him. Then there was Matt. So I think Matt could have been in the prime time. I think he may have missed out by only like 5 kilos or a few GL points based on the day before when I saw all the men. But he did really well. So we were kind of aiming for like a 730 total. I think we finished 710, but we only missed one left. I think we only missed our last deadlift. And deadlift, if you miss one of them, it does take a considerable chunk off your total, because that's the one you generally make large jumps with. He's used to making large jumps in training, relatively large, so you're talking like 20-15 kilos when you compare that to something like bench press where you're making 10 to 5 kilo jumps. That can be something that is missed on your total. So yeah, that the one unfortunately we missed. It just kind of didn't get going. He felt that he couldn't quite get in the right position, couldn't quite get tight at the bottom, couldn't really get his brace. We identified that he had a little bit too much hype going into it, and he also, I think he hyped himself up a little bit too early. So if the lift had gone ahead on schedule, it would have been fine, but the person before, there was some body fluid on the bar, so they had to clean that up, which is, perfect, spot on. Yeah, but we couldn't, he was kind of timing himself ready to go straight away, but then they had to move the bar and clean it and then put it back and all this stuff. So I think he took himself past that like optimal point. Squats though, they went really well. We did 267 and there was room for a little bit more. Bench press we did, it was either 152 or it was 155, something like that. Again, like perfect call. I'm not convinced there was more in that one on the day, but we could, always build on that. Like I think the last comp we did 147, so there's an increase there. We're getting close to his best bench of all time. He spent some time being a 120 plus, so those numbers are kind of what we're chasing. And when he was there, I think he squatted 270 or 272, maybe it's 275, something around there. So again, we're closing in on the squat, we're closing in on the bench. The deadlift, I believe we're at his best deadlift, I think. So we did 300 for his second, and then we went for 310, because last comp we did 307 and he got it. I was like, sweet, we've trained since then, should be stronger. Again, I think he just got a little bit overhyped, so things didn't go as planned. We're now learning from this. He's going to train with his squat level of hype, so he gets motivated, he gets hyped up for his squats, but they're not to the same degree as his deadlift. He gets very excited for those, and it makes sense to think more excitement, more performance, but there is a bell curve to this. So your performance along the bottom and your excitement along the top, there's a point where, yeah, the perfect amount of excitement gives you the best level of performance. But then as you get too excited, performance starts to drop. Okay? So it would be if you get very much too hyped, you may as well be not as hyped at all, and you'll have the same performance kind of thing. It's psychological stuff. So I think that's where we're learning now, is where that sweet spot is for his deadlift. I think he's got it nailed for his squats, and his bench are going fine. So yeah, like that's also probably switched on. The thing with the bench is it's the most technical lift. I find if anything's off a little bit, you have a bigger impact on your performance. Whereas if a little something is off on your deadlift, you might be able to muscle through it, depends what it is. Similar with your squats. And there is far more to the bench press in terms of technique than people give it credit for. So the higher skill the movement, the lower the excitement tends to need to be to have the best performance. Say you watch the racket sport players, I would say specifically table tennis. They obviously get very excited and cheer when they win, but they're not getting incredibly hyped up, shouting, headbutting things, like none of that crazy stuff before the game, because they need very fine motor skills, great hand-eye coordination. If you get too riled up, the fine motor skills become very difficult. So yeah, and finally we had Tom. So this was his first competition. He is an ex-American football player for GB. He used to be the captain. He then took time away. He then returned, and he was then captain again, which is awesome. So he's very much a sportsman. He knows competition. He knows how it goes. He has that kind of psychological edge in terms of on comp day, he'll pull his finger out and he'll do what he needs to do. And he is currently dealing with, pretty sure it's like a reconstructed ACL. Like his ACL was torn during a game. He's had some surgeries on that. That's healing at the moment. So he's not doing squats and limited deadlifts. So I don't put any deadlifts in his training, but he's like absolutely smashing the rehab on that, trying to get it as strong as possible. Now, not with the aim necessarily to come back to football, but I would say potentially to go into full powerlifting. Now, to get his foot in the door to see if he likes powerlifting, we've gone for bench only. Something he's also really good at. He's got goals for that. He wants to bench 200. I'd say it's very doable next year. He may even be able to do it this year, but we're not going to compete probably until the end of the year, maybe even going into next year. I wanted to compete at the end of the year. I wanted to do Christmas at the Super Training Comp because it's not far from him. Same environment. It's just a bit easier. But yeah, we went 3 for 3. We benched 190, which is more than enough to qualify him for the British Bench Press Champs next year. He did the under 120 category, which is also really good because there was a lot of things going on. His rehab, he was trying to lose weight to get into the under 120s because he was over, which then makes it easier to perform really well. Makes him slightly more competitive with the strength he has. Now, it was quite a surprise for me that he did really well on the day. But a good surprise. It wasn't that I doubt his performance or his abilities, it is just that in training, he's come over and trained with me a few times, and I obviously write his program, so I know what weights he's doing, and he was supposed to do the heaviest thing he did before comp was at the end of his last block, like his penultimate training block, and he was programmed to do, I think it was a double or a triple, I think it was a double with 180 kilos. And he did the single, and it was an absolute 10, maybe a 9.5. But realistically, he was not getting another rep. So he racked it. He was annoyed with it. He was annoyed with the fact it didn't move as he wanted to. I was quite surprised because the training was on the trajectory of being fine, that being no problem. He then took the second single because he still wanted to do the right amount of volume. He's supposed to do a double. Well, 2 singles is the same volume, which I had no problem with. And yeah, again, it was a real struggle. The fact he could do it twice though with that much effort, solid. So I was thinking, right, comp day, realistically, 4 weeks time, are we going to add 10, 20, because he wanted to do 220 kilos to this? From my experience, it's not realistic. So I had planned realistically to load as much as 185, but I wanted to leave the door open for 190 because I'm not about to limit or doubt the ability of my athletes. If especially if we've not done a competition before together, which we hadn't, we've just done a shitload of training. I'm not going to sit there and go, oh, based on this, you can't do that, because that psychologically is terrible for the athlete. That athlete's not going to feel great then going into competition, knowing that I'm there thinking, you can't do this. So I never do that with my athletes. I always think, right, I have the kind of two thoughts in my head. What's realistic based on the data I've seen and the performances they've shown, this number? What could happen on a unicorn miracle day? This could be there. Or that point may be, what do they want? What do you want from this? Oh, I want to lift this number. Right, well, I'll leave the door open so that you could attempt it if things go wonderful. So we open with 170, jump to 180. That leaves the door open for 190, but also allows us to go anything less. Because when I do attempts, I make sure that you can jump the same, so 10-10, but the second jump will be the same or less, never more. So I'm not going to jump 10-12. I'm not going to go 170, 180, 195. You see? So yeah, leaving the door open there, and then 180, it just flew off his chest. I was like, shows what I bloody know. Yeah, we're putting 190 on the bar. Like, let's go for it. Might start to actually struggle, and yeah, it was a little bit slow, but it still wasn't even as slow as when we did 180 in training. So thrilled. Like, it's a win-win. The athlete got what they wanted. They benched 190. I got what I wanted. The athlete doing really well. So yeah, both very happy with that. I now have a little bit of time off in terms of competitions. So there's nothing until Andrew does powering through, I think they're calling it the spring championships or something, but it's in September, which is the winter. And I don't care what you tell me, it's the winter. So that should be called the Winter Open or the Winter Champs, whatever. So yeah, that is the first weekend in September. Then 2 weeks after that, I have Charlotte doing, what's it called, Static Monsters World Championships in America. I think it's in Arizona, which is awesome. On the same day, I'm competing in the Western European Championships for Ireland. Very proud of that. More proud of my athletes doing World Championships for Static Monsters. And then I think it's 3 days after I compete, I have Roche doing Commonwealth Championships for powerlifting. This will be her first international, which is amazing. Then I think it's 6 days after that, maybe less, I don't know. But Sam Birkin is also doing Commonwealth Championships. So Roche is going as a 69 M2. Sam's going as a 84 plus M1. Again, both of their first internationals, both going to get their England kit. Unreal. The fact that Charlotte is going to the World Championships in Static Monsters, and when we did the qualifying for her, we only did the deadlift. So Static Monsters is an 18-inch axle deadlift and a log press. So we did the qualifier in barbell division, but because of her nerves were playing up for her in terms of the nerves in her body, not the nerves that she feels, we only did the deadlift. It's also the one that she only really cares about. So we only did the deadlift, and we still qualified for the World Championships with only the deadlift, which is awesome. The championships and the qualifying is your total on both log and deadlift. We didn't do the log, we just did the deadlift. I think this time we're going to go to the champs. We're going to do both. We're going to do the log and the deadlift. So we're training for that at the moment. I'd like us to push probably closer to like a 190 deadlift. We think we did 182. And then log. I feel like the most we've log pressed previously is 40. We have done this now in training. We've done 40 for a few reps now, actually. So in training and on the day, I would probably want that to be pushed closer to 45 because we've still got 8 more weeks. So that would be quite exciting. I want to see how that goes. The thing with my athletes is I've got ideas and plans of like, right, these are the numbers I want to push to. Ultimately, what happens. Like I couldn't force progress on someone if they've got really high external stress, if an emergency happens, if they don't apply themselves, which isn't something I'm saying is what my athletes do. Like I believe all of them apply themselves as much as they can, but I'm just saying, though, if any like problems or hindrances to their adaptations come up, I adapt to that. You know, if I program a weight or an RPE or something and the result isn't as I expect, we make adjustments to the next week. Don't just blindly follow like, oh, I want them to lift this, so I'm gonna... No, it doesn't really work like that. Equally, if it goes the other way where they perform really well, I'm like, damn, they're responding really well. I will adapt to that in terms of this is working really well. I'm probably not going to change it much. I'm just going to allow them to lift heavier, see where that takes them. So that's probably enough rambling. Half hour. I believe the mic is fixed, and for anybody that did watch this and found that I sounded like a muppet, but really quiet, it is because the mic and the receiver, so this is the transmitter, that's the receiver in the phone. The receiver was being picked up by my phone, which is what this is recorded on, as headphones. So it didn't know there was a microphone, and I don't really speak very loud or clearly, so the fact there was a big thing stuck in my phone covering its own microphone, yeah, that's why I sound like a muppet. Hopefully this works. I'm using a different phone to do this, and future recordings will be done on different phones. So if you couldn't hear me before, you can hear me now.